right,
Okay,
we're all good to go.
great. Thanks so much, Em. Thanks so much, Nancy Moldenauer, for inviting me here. This is something we've been talking about doing for a while, and I think it's actually worked out a little bit perfect that we are doing it this week. I mean, I hope people watch this well into the future, and you may not remember what this week is with the date November 7th, but we had an interesting election. Let's just say that. And it's probably going to happen with every election that about half the people are, happy, half the people are not so happy. I think this is the perfect time to talk about resilience and how to help each other form a more resilient community. And that's really what Northwest Indiana Region Resilience is all about. So we're going to talk about the number of different ways that we're building resilience. And I'm probably going to say many times throughout this presentation, join us. I mean, to just talk about it in the abstract is one thing, but the way that you're really going to feel how this resilience works is to get in the sandbox and play with us. And even though I just said maybe half the people are sad and half the people are happy, I want to say that the sandbox, I really want all the people in the sandbox. I think this is like one of the places where we can get together and start to know each other and do projects shoulder to shoulder so that we don't have this polarization that we're sometimes feeling, after an election. So I just want to get that out of the way. If you're hearing my voice right now, you're in the right place. Doesn't matter how you voted, how you're feeling right now. We really want to sit down, break bread together, and a resilient community includes everybody. So I think this is just like one way that we are going to be able to work through that. So if you're familiar with QR codes, you can zap that little QR code at any time. And I also am going to put the link in chat as well. But if you click on that, or excuse me, take a picture of the QR code, it's going to take you to a form. We're going to talk about that form in just a little while. But right now, I realize some of you here, I just met really briefly before we started this thing. So you don't really know who I am. My name's Kathy Sipple, and I kind of use Facebook for my own personal social weaving, let's say. So yes, I do have a number of different business pages and organization pages, but you can follow me just on Facebook at my name, at Kathy Sipple. And that's probably where I try to be the town crier and just put the ripped from the headline stuff that's happening that I think is interesting and start it there. So that's probably the best way to reach me, public persona wise. The link is more for our whole organization, and we'll make sure that you get routed to the right person. But in any case, where am I, joining from? I am in Valparaiso, Indiana, which is in Porter County. And some people are coming to this today from outside of our region, Northwest Indiana. They asked, what does that include? Typically, we say that's Lake, Porter, and LaPorte County, but sometimes, a little bit beyond. But I'm in Porter County, which is just in the middle of those three, and Valparaiso is kind of in the middle of that. So I have just felt very strongly about being a uniter, being a bridge builder between all those counties, and that's me. I kind of consider myself almost like a concierge for resilience. I don't do everything, but I probably know the people who do the things, and I just really, really thrive and enjoy connecting people when they find their tribe, their people. Okay, so let me move on to the next thing. This is a little diagram I came up with probably a couple years ago when I just thought, gosh, I've been really fortunate to stumble onto some pretty interesting and sometimes unfortunate, a little bit too obscure for my liking, uh, toolbox or tools, I should say, that I think really, really help communities to build resilience. And I'll just go through them really quickly, and then we're going to translate how do those, layer onto our website and our organization. Um, I'll start with sociocracy because probably not too many people know about sociocracy. I'd love to see show of hands, or put in comment would probably be better, to say if you've ever heard of sociocracy. But ocracy, kind of like democracy, you might know that that's governance. Socio is like by society. So governance by our own society, learning to govern ourselves. So kind of decentralized governance and people learning to make consent decisions together. So really invested a lot of time into that learning. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful tool that I'd like to share more widely. Time banking is something that I really embraced back in 2016 when I started a local time bank. And we grew it to, gosh, I think right around 200 members. And it was really going gangbusters at the end of 2019. And then what happened in 2020? The pandemic. So the pandemic, when it was not safe to get together and exchange time with one another, and more on time banking later, um, it really did put a big pause on that, and we're just now reviving it. But basically, shorthand is some people hear about time banking and they say, oh, it's just like bartering or it's just like volunteering. But it really is quite different because it's based in reciprocity. And unlike bartering, where you have to do some mental math to figure out, do I want to trade what this other person is offering me? Is that a good deal for me? Not a good deal? In time banking, you're using a community currency where an hour of time is the unit of currency. So everybody's hour is equal. And you don't have to just exchange with one person. You just help somebody if you're feeling drawn or led to do the thing that they want done and you love to do it, then you can do that freely. And then you have banked an hour of time that you can exchange with any other member in the time bank. It doesn't have to be that person. So I just think time banking is a really great way to suss out the resources in the community and find out, what do people really love to do that they don't necessarily want to do for a job. And I heard somebody come on early and they said, oh, I don't have a lot of time. There's no requirement that you have to time bank, 10 hours a month. You could do 10 hours a year or even less, and that would be absolutely fine. So I kind of like it because, Jim Croce, that if I could save time in a bottle, it's a way that you can actually kind of save time when you do find yourself maybe time rich. And then later, when you're time crunched, you can maybe get some help from people in community. And then the last little circle here on this Venn diagram is permaculture. And that's another word that I find, just too few people know for my liking, but it's a system of design principles, and it's a portmanteau that stands for permanent and not only agriculture, but also culture. So how do we design culture? How do we design agriculture to work in a more permanent, more sustainable way versus doing things over and over and over? So although I love tomatoes, they're great. A permaculture approach to gardening might be more like food forest, planting plants once that are going to provide for you over and over and over again versus like all these annual kind of crops. So anyway, I just thought, at the point in the middle where we're deciding together, using the resources, the time resources that we have in community, and designing kind of a social design where we put guilds of people together that can help each other. If people want to say, do a whole lot of native plant pollinator gardens, if we knew who those people were in community, we could kind of plant them together, not literally, obviously, but put them together and say, okay, you're the person who really likes seed saving. You're the person who likes doing, winter sowing, or, growing in little mini greenhouses with gallon jugs over the winter. You're the person who works with kids, and, you're the person who has land. You're the person who's a good designer. Like, let's put all of you together. And how many gardens could we do if we utilized, all of those skills, and everybody doing a little bit that they really enjoy, versus it feeling so overwhelming and perhaps you doing things that don't feel fun or doing them alone, things like that. So I want to save time at the end to just go into other examples that you might be interested in, and just play around with what we would actually do on design. So anyway, that was my vision, but my vision alone doesn't do that much if I don't have people and I don't have supports. Luckily, I have a lot of support, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, but I just wanted to make sure, this is kind of like winning an Oscar. I definitely don't want to forget to name any of these people, but Hillary Miles, she is somebody that I met in the Master Gardener program, and then she joined me in the permaculture design course that we took last year, Chesterton. You'll see a little bit more about her work on the website because she did all of our new beautiful logos. Nancy Knightley is here with us, and say hi, Nancy Knightley. You can wave. She's from Miller Beach in Gary, and she was also in our permaculture class. Rebecca, oh gosh, I should have practiced saying her name. I don't say her last name very often. I'm going to say Kate's, and I hope that's right. And she is in Maryville. But I think based on knowing Nancy, now she's really wanting to move to Miller Beach. She's kind of found her people there. But she teaches the Master Gardeners over in Lake County, and she made available their classroom for us to have our permaculture class there. And she also joined us in the permaculture class. Adam Scartozzi, some of you might have met him at various different climate events, climate rallies, I can't think of the names exactly, but he lives in Hammond and has also recently opened up kind of a mutual aid social network place called Joy Bomb in Lake Station. And they have been hosting a lot of our time bank events there. And there's one coming up that will be hosted there on November 15th that I'll tell you a little bit more about later. Connie Wachala in Highland, she has been right with me since the beginning of Northwest Indiana Region Resilience, and she helped start up Highland Neighbors for Sustainability. So really can't say enough good things about Connie. Nancy Moldenauer, you all know Nancy because she's here, the Mistress of Ceremonies. And then Grace Tafoya is a relatively young and newer member to this team. She lives in Gary, and I was really fortunate to be able to invite her to join as an Earth Charter Indiana part-time, how do we want to say, not employee. She's like 20 hours a month. I am 60 hours a month with Earth Charter Indiana. We're what's called resiliency coordinators with Earth Charter Indiana. And honestly, without that support, kind of Earth Charter Indiana being the wind beneath our wings, it'd be really hard to do this completely, is all volunteers or even all time bank. So with just 80 hours a month kind of paid for by a nonprofit, we're able to run this whole kind of elaborate, thing that you're about to see and get, I think, quite a lot done. So I'm pretty proud of that. I told you would hear a little bit more about Hillary or see her work. And I'm so proud of our website. We worked long and hard on this thing. Northwest Indiana Region Resilience, the original name, and the website came out in 2020 in the heart of the pandemic, when we maybe kind of like right now, we're just feeling lost. Hey, we had a plan. We were going to do all of these things. We had a big climate action blitz, we called it, in February of 2020. I feel like I'm always dropping these dates that maybe in the future people will not know. But then what happened in March of 2020? The pandemic. We exhausted our venue. We filled it up completely. We were so excited that so many people here in the region were interested in coming to a climate action blitz. We sat people at their tables and they got to know neighbors. We sat them by zip code and by town, and people learned who their neighbors were that also cared about this. We were incentivizing them to go and talk to their city or town governments and ask them to start a climate resolution in time for Earth Day of 2020. And of course, all the governments were shut down. People had not discovered Zoom yet. It was a crazy mess. So instead of being sad about it, we said, you know what, let's get together on Zoom each week and let's figure out what we can do instead of what we can't do. We can't do the plan that we thought we were going to do. So instead, we became Northwest Indiana Region Resilience. So that origin story is still here on our current website, which, by the way, if you want to go to that website, it's nwiregionresilience.org. And I probably should have made that a little bit more prominent somewhere, but nwiregionresilience.org. I wonder if I could impose on you to maybe put that in chat just to make it a little bit easier for people to click on. But in any case, if you fill out that first form that we talked about, you can also have that sent to you. But in any way, what we were at 2020 was what was needed at that time during the pandemic. And what we decided that we were going to do was to have our regional planning commission, we were going to approach them and ask them to do the region's first ever regional, or excuse me, the state's first ever regional greenhouse gas inventory. And at that time, there were like very few regional greenhouse gas inventories even in existence. I think there were only two in Southwest Florida and maybe the Denver area. So what we were doing was really kind of emergent and new. And Nancy gave me this word emergent to explain what we are. And I'm going to really hang on to that because this is why there's not an easy to understand pattern. Like, what are you? What do you do? What we were is just what we were able to do. And then we're always looking around and saying, what else is possible? Who's emerging that's interested in doing things tangentially related to that thing that we just did? And it just keeps going. It's kind of like a mycelial network. If you're at all into mushrooms, and I am, the mushroom is only the fruiting body of the the mushroom, what we think of as a mushroom, but the bigger part of the organism is actually the little threads that are all under the soil. And I feel like that's what we are here with the resilience is we're so much more than what you see above ground. There are people that are deeply, deeply, deeply connected. And that's why on that list of people that I showed you before, I said, and it's probably you. I mean, there are so many people that are involved that I could never list them all on a single website or single page. But in any case, the About tab can tell you all about what we did with that regional greenhouse gas inventory. But then what I started to think about is that, climate resilience is certainly part of my job with Earth Charter Indiana. That's kind of the main part that they're thinking about. But I saw that building a resilient community was actually part of solving climate. So we just kind of broadened our reach a little bit. And these are not things that I can claim that we did. Some of these things were going along perfectly fine. Like Green Drinks had their own logo. The Time Bank had its own logo. Northwest Indiana Permaculture was started by somebody, Christine Maloney, England, who now moved away to Indianapolis. And she kind of gave me that project to hold. 219 Green Connect is my own podcast that I started, and it had its own logo. Northwest Indiana Food Swap. It's not something I started. Again, somebody kind of handed it to me. But what I saw is that all these projects really could be brought under one umbrella of NWI Region Resilience. And that if we did all of them together and called them a family, they might be more understandable and we could point the right people to the right thing. So when you go to our website, nwiregionresilience.org, you can click on any of these logos and it'll take you to a page where you can find out much more. So I'm not going to elaborate too much on that right now. But yeah, I think this would be a good time just to go to the website. But before I do that, I'm not going to read very much to you. I'm going to be mostly, ad-libbing. But I do want to say, join the resilience, number one, just like it says. And the way that these pieces work together, Nancy, before we started, Nancy Moldenauer was saying, gosh, I kind of miss the green drinks that we had in person, where there's so much more chance to interact and talk to each other. And I said, well, Nancy, that's why we are making these meetups now. And that's why we have the Time Bank, is because this is adjacent to green drinks that 10 times a year, every month, except for July and December, when they take off for a well-deserved holiday, they're doing kind of the information download, and then people can pick up the threads and go and do the things and find the people and meet the people. And through the permaculture meetup, we give the people an outlet to go and meet each other and actually learn the things shoulder to shoulder, uh, talking, sharing, breaking bread. And with the Time Bank, that's a way that you don't even have to wait till there's a meetup. If you've met somebody and you say, gosh, you sure know a lot about seed saving, or you sure know a lot about mushroom ID, would you come to my house and kind of show me what I have on my property? Well, that might be weird to ask somebody just out of the goodness of their heart or to offer to pay them. But if they're in the Time Bank and it's something they want to do, they can do it for Time Bank credit. So it's just so much of an easier ask when people are putting their skills in the Time Bank, and they're always free to say, no, that doesn't really work for me, or that's not an offering I want to do right now. But just as adults, I think it's hard to ask, am I going to be shunned? Is somebody going to say no to me, not want to be my friend? But if you are just agreeing to an hour of time, that's an easier yes. Okay. So, anyway, I'm just going to read this one part and then no more reading. A resilient reading is connected and active. These are a few of the ways that we're providing opportunities for grassroots connections and learning across Northwest Indiana. And then, their existing groups in cities and towns, that is something that I want to show you on the website and really celebrate. This list was about 2 or 3 at the beginning. The Michigan City Sustainability Commission was one of the very few. And because of Nancy and others on that Michigan City Sustainability Commission, Nancy was a founder, they have helped share the ordinance that helped Michigan City get that group started, shared very generously across the region to share how they did it, their methods, their paperwork, and all of that. And now, because of them, many other groups have started. So that's very exciting. And if you're not really sure what is you, the last thing, a role to play, the start here is just kind of a playful quiz. If you don't know, am I an activist? Am I a connector? Whatever, you can go and play around with that. But this is my friend Hillary, and she did all of these beautiful logos. She is a very talented graphic designer, and I think she really did a great job to bring this disparate set of logos together and making them look like a family. Okay, so I'm going to go on over to our website right now and just start at the beginning of what I said. Probably looks familiar. All right, this is what we just saw. And I think the next thing I want to show you is the local efforts, because that is a pretty big deal. I think the biggest thing that we can do is not try to do everything and be everything, but to just point you to the people who are closest to you so that you can get to know who are the people who care about, sustainability or environment where I live. And just because somebody's listed here, I want to point out this disclaimer. We're not claiming any credit or even an official relationship with these groups, but just to help people in the community learn of their existence. And if you know of a group that we don't yet have, please, click this link, send us a message, and we will add them. Again, this was only maybe, I think, the Gary Office of Sustainability and the Michigan City Sustainability Commission were probably the only ones when we started this website in 2020. And now, oh my gosh, it's becoming almost like, what? Crown Point? You're not on here? What? Cedar Lake? Where are you? City of LaPorte. City of LaPorte actually has something on their website, but I haven't really been able to find more about that. But even the fact that they have it on their website, that's great. Valparaiso, where I live, we don't have a governmental group yet, but this is kind of Invest is the Indiana Valparaiso Environmental Stewardship Task Force. That was just something that a group of citizens decided to do. And so sometimes it becomes something that's citizen driven, and then it gets the attention of government and wherever, it falls. Like in Hammond, it's a community garden right now. I sure hope we have something, I don't want to say bigger, stronger, better, because they all are strong in their own way, but something with, some governmental teeth. And at some point in the future, I want to have just a page for every community and not have it be an either or, but a both and. Gary is a great example of that. I haven't even added the new Sustainability Commission that Gary, added just a few months ago. And they have block clubs too, which is just great. So I love that Gary is layering and kind of becoming this like fractal where people can find their way. But anyway, I think that's exciting. And then NERPC, our Regional Planning Commission, I have to say at the very beginning, they were not super excited to just jump in the middle of the pandemic and add to their workload. But boy, they have really come around, and they have kind of seen the power of having citizens working with them and seeing how much they can get done. When we did our regional greenhouse gas inventory, we then built a climate action plan based on that. And they were like, great, now we know how to draw down carbon. We know how to fix this. But wow, we have to get communities, cities and towns to actually implement this climate action plan at their level. And they didn't have the buy-in. So they said, wow, we're going to need some expertise. We're going to need some citizens who care. we're going to need sustainability commissions. So all of a sudden, they became like our number one ally to help us figure out how to get cities and towns to establish sustainability commissions. And they developed this sensible tools handbook, for best practices for a changing landscape. If you click on that, that is just a treasure trove of, tools. Nancy's nodding. I think we were both at the NERC Environmental Management and Policy Committee meeting where they, showed that. So it's deceptively small and just a, little graphic, but if you click on that, it goes to a whole PDF download. And then I put these updates. These are kind of my sociocracy leanings. I think just learning how to organize at the neighborhood level is just such an interesting aspect of what citizens can do, especially when we're feeling a little like overwhelmed by, wow, government at this level isn't going my way. Go to the fractal level where you can make change and start organizing, whether it's in your neighborhood, it's in your town, it's in your county. There are definitely things that you can absolutely do where you can make a change. And that just feels so good and so empowering. So I'm very lucky that I have some good friends that I'm studying sociocracy with in the European Union. And there are 7 countries over there that are using this model that they call SONIC, which stands for Sociocratic Neighborhoods European Communities, I think. And if you click on this link on our website, which again is nwiregionresilience.org, it's got a great, there are handbooks in many languages, but of course, English is one of them. And it guides you through exactly how to start organizing at the neighborhood level. And they have tied all of their goals to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So if the neighborhood decides what we really need is to, get rid of poverty, or what we really need to do is to clean up this river, they have an organizing system and they have goals all in that beautiful little handbook. Another thing, this is actually sociocracy, but it's a grant that the group Sociocracy for All got to help climate activists learn how to make group decisions. And I think, we can tell again with how divisive and polarizing so much of our politics are, this just feels so good to learn how to make decisions by consent. It's an art form. It's not, a science, but practicing with a group of people, and you can get this for free, I think is a great, great jumping off point. So how are we doing on time? Gosh, time is flying by. Nancy, you are muted. Do you want to say something? No? Okay. Okay. I'm going to keep going then. And I want to talk about time banking, because I think that even more so than permaculture, which I do love, and sociocracy, which I also love, I think that there's a long learning curve, and people might not either have the bandwidth for that or the inclination. But I think time bank, you literally can do it for an hour, or if you're time rich, you can do it almost to start offsetting how you pay for things, or how, it can become a lifestyle. I mean, I've seen people who really live into the time bank, and they're trading time for a place to live, or people have traded time for a vehicle. We hosted a woman who made her way from Portland, Maine, all the way to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And she stayed with time bankers in every single city where she stopped with her 2 kids. And she had a concert here in Valparaiso, and it was just amazing. It was great. So people have paid for their whole weddings by time banking. That obviously takes, a lot of coordinated effort in a more mature time bank, and a lot of people willing to do a lot of different skills. But again, you can get to this just by going to nwiregionresilience.org and clicking on the little time bank logo. You can just ask to be keep posted about time banking, or we'd really prefer apply for membership right here. We want to have you become a member. And again, I know some people just joined, so I'm not going to do a deep dive right now. But time banking is just a way of, giving and receiving. It's based on reciprocity. So you give an hour, you're going to get an hour. You're not necessarily going to get an hour back from the person that you helped. Let me just use an example. Like my neighbor just told me that she's going to be going away next week, and she wanted to find out if I would be able to walk her dog. Okay, yes, I can do that. So if I walk her dog for an hour, she's a yoga teacher. I don't need to get a yoga lesson from her. She could give the yoga lesson to any other person in the time bank. And then the person who got the yoga lesson, maybe they're good with tools and somebody else wants their gate repaired. You can just see how there can be a daisy chain of things that to me is just so much more freeing and liberating than barter. Because barter to me, it's a lot of mental energy and it's kind of based on limitation of, oh, I don't know if I really want that. You really seem to want this that I have. You just do, and then you bank your time and it doesn't expire. It's a beautiful thing. It's changed my life over the years. It's not like one transaction does it, but when you go back to it and back to it and back to it to really, form a way of life, it's kind of a big deal. And I'm hoping, I just signed a new office lease here in Valparaiso, started November 1st. There's a training room in my office space, and I want to have some classes where people come and practice. There's a class called posterity budgeting, and it's actually how to make your finances more resilient by using time banking as one of the elements that helps wean you off of only, fiat currency. And obviously yeah, it can help you save money, which is great. But the bigger thing I think that it really builds that leads to resilience is the opportunity to meet with all kinds of people that you might never come across if you go to a different church, or let's say you have kids or you don't have kids, or you vote this way or you vote that way. It's a place where you can just meet people for 1 hour of time and you're helping each other. It's just been a really, really cool way that for me cuts across all other barriers. And I want to say we are looking at becoming our own 501c3. We feel like this really has gotten some legs. We're very grateful to Earth Charter Indiana for kind of being our fiscal sponsor. But so many people are putting in, their time and energy, and we're doing big things that we are looking at that. We didn't get that quite in time for this training, but if you'd like to support our mission, you can go to this website and you can do a one-time, donation, which we would certainly appreciate. If you want to join the time bank, we do ask for a small donation to help us, cover the fees and things like that. We run on a pretty slim budget, but there are some fees. So if you feel moved, this will go directly to our local organization. At this time, not yet a 501c3, so it's not tax deductible. If that is important to you, we can make arrangements with Earth Charter Indiana, and they can give you that whole, tax thing. And so far, I have to say, with Earth Charter Indiana, they have completely 100% given us the flow through of whatever money comes in is marked for NWI region resilience. They've given 100% of it to us. So they have just been a delight. I mentioned this forum a few times, and I'm just going to say again, I don't know if you got the QR code, or if I should go back to that, or I could put it in chat as well. This is not the most elegant way to share it. Or let me finish up with this and then I'll put it in chat. This is the Join the Resilience Forum, and it is co-branded NWI Region Resilience with Earth Charter Indiana. And the reason, why is what I told you, is they're the one that is paying me for 60 hours of time a month, and Grace, 20 hours a month. I hope we can do more at some point, either add more coordinators to add more diversity, more geographic diversity, all the ways of diversity. But right now it's Grace and myself. But when you sign up, it asks you for information. You don't have to put all of it, but if you do, it's kind of helpful. And then you can come down here and you can just only choose the things that you want to know about. So if you want to know about climate action, if you want to know about those local sustainability groups that I told you about, what will happen is that I will, reach out to them and make, contact. You don't have to wait for me though. Now you know how to go to the website and just click on that group and you could go there. Pollinator Gardens is a special initiative that we last year achieved, becoming the National Wildlife Federation's first ever wildlife certified region. They never had a multi-county group come and say, we want to certify as a region. They had only done towns. Anyway, pollinator gardens, if that's your jam, that's what you'll get, is follow-up information on that. Permaculture meetups I talked about briefly. Mutual aid networks is kind of the more umbrella, zoomed out term for time banking, but some people like asset-based community development. I've had some training in that through DePaul University as well. And then I'm not doing so many podcasts anymore because Green Drinks is doing such a great job of covering all the latest and greatest news, with their monthly recorded events. But if you have something that you feel is important that you want the environmental community to know about, and you're not lucky enough to make it onto the Green Drinks docket, I'd love to take that overflow. It only takes a half hour to record a podcast episode with me. And if it's anything related to the environment and of regional interest, I am happy to make space and do that for you. There's absolutely zero cost to do that. And then M is really the one that's better about getting the alerts. Would be the more efficient way, is just go right to Save the Dunes to get the notifications. But if we get it, we'll share it with them. And then Earth Charter Indiana too. Please do leave this box checked. It's checked by default. But if there's a real important like wetlands bill that comes up, or if we really need people to weigh in about hydrogen hub or whatever, by you leaving that box checked, we will be able to notify you, hey, there's a really important, initiative coming up, and we could use your, public testimony or your vote or what have you. So I think that's like the main thing I want to talk about. I really do want to save time for questions. I know I threw a lot out at you. And I see some new faces that joined. Welcome, welcome. Susan and Valerie and Amanda, Julia. Very good. Let's see, how are we doing? Did we have any questions in the?
Well, thank you, Kathy. The only comment we've received in the Zoom chat here is from John Allen saying climate smart agriculture has been some new buzzwords around at the USDA, which is where John Allen works, building up healthy soil, etc. So there's that.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd say there's a lot of overlap with permaculture. They're not exactly, because permaculture is, again, beyond, I don't want to say only agriculture, but it also deals with, social designs and things like that. But yeah, we did get some grant funding, small grant from SARE, the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education. I think that's what that stands for. And again, Purdue hosted us in their space. And I love that they're now looking at climate, and some extension offices even are having permaculture training, which I think is great. So anyway, what else did we have?
That was the only comment that we received.
Okay, building up soil health though, we have people who are in the time bank and in permaculture meetup who know a lot about biochar, which is an interesting way to build up your soil. Dan Waters is studying with Dr. Elaine Ingram's soil, what the heck is it? Soil Health Web or something like that. I mean, it's like thousands of dollars training to learn how to make the perfect, most biocomplete compost known to mankind. And he's just so scientific about it and so interesting. Yeah, so I just love for everybody to meet everybody. It's not likely that you can get all of these people to do an event that everyone can come to, but through the time bank, you could have Dan's ear for an hour. It doesn't always have to be a full hour either. I mean, you can call somebody for 15 minutes and that would be fine. But the time bank, I really can't say enough good things about it. There is a potluck coming up on November 15th in Lake Station. So anybody who's local, I think that would be really, really lovely if you're available and you wanted to check it out. I can put that Facebook link in chat. And you can also get to it through our website, which again, nwiregionresilience.org. But yeah, let me put the Facebook link in there. And how about the weird words? I just want to see show of hands, like sociocracy. You can use your virtual hand or your real hand. Who has heard of that? Nancy? Nope. Valerie, have you? Have I? Okay, I'm like, I must have told you about it. Yeah, come on now. Okay, and permaculture, how about that one? A little more? Okay. And how about time banking? Julia was a yes. Okay, great. Time banking. Okay, so for somebody to know all of those things, it's a little bit rare, but I feel like because we've got all three of those things going here, I love that John brought up soil. I kind of think of it as like building up the soil here in the region is like the ultimate composting is all of us putting our talents into, the region resilience and being able to plant your seeds into that. You're going to be able to grow the project that you want. You're going to be able to find fertile soil. You're going to be able to find allies to help you promote it. I'm just so curious. Oh, good. We have a question from Micah. Okay, can you speak a little bit more about the different kinds of municipal groups regarding benefits and negatives of citizen-driven versus created by the municipality? It seems difficult to have interaction with some committees that are closed. Okay. Yeah. Again, I think both and is really pretty cool. If I can find it quickly and easily, I could even put together a little, I call it a white paper. I think I always wanted to be in a university or something. It's not a white paper. It's a Google Doc that Kathy Sipple put together. But it was my study on Gary, like how Gary is federating. They've got block clubs that to me are very much like the Sonic, the European neighborhood groups. And then with the block clubs, now they've got this sustainability commission. So they've got a way to connect to people who are citizens, but who are government adjacent. And then they've also got another group called an ambassadors group that meets monthly. And in that, they're trying to find all the people from like the movers and shakers. Nancy Knightley she shows up in that a lot. She's with Sojourner Truth House and the Gary Food Council and things like that. So they're saying, hey, here's what we're trying to do with sustainability. Can you get this out to the Gary Food Council? Can you get this out to, these types of people? The Red Cross comes, all these different people come every month. And so they've got this like many to many kind of way to do things. And then they've got their sustainability department as well. So to me, like having all those layers is like the very best. But yes, it can be a little unwieldy when you're not sure of what is your jurisdiction, what is your power, but not having any power, I think is worse. So organizing in some way with an aim to graduate it to whatever makes sense and whatever you're able to do, I think it's worth doing. I hope that answers it, Micah.
Yeah, I think if I could speak a little bit about the municipal group approach. The one thing that's extremely attractive about that is once it's set up and it's codified in an ordinance, it will never disappear. So there's a permanent structure that's available through the local municipal or the local county government. So there's a strength to that. I do know that with the Michigan City Sustainability Commission, we've made every effort possible to engage members of our community in what we're doing. So we have activity outreach, and we just had an EV ride and drive event in Michigan City. We had 100 participants with 10 EV vehicles. The last April of every year, we have a Earth Month extravaganza event. It's going to be held at the Senior Center this coming year. We invite all the nonprofits in the area to have a table free of cost. So I think it depends a lot on what you're looking to accomplish. And I do know the mayor of Michigan City is in process of setting up these neighborhood groups that Kathy's been talking about. But if it's something that's codified in an ordinance, it's never going to disappear. Sometimes mayors will set up the advisory groups, but those can disappear in the next election. So I think that's an important distinction to consider. If you're looking for permanence, then go to the government.
100%. And Michigan City has been so generous. I mentioned this, that you've been so generous with your time, with your ordinance. And I believe that sample ordinance, or not the sample, but the ordinance that you used is on the Michigan City Sustainability Commission's website. So that is a jumping off point for Highland, for Valparaiso, for Porter, the town of Porter. in, I think it was February of this year, was able to get a sustainability commission going. And that happened because a woman, Jenny Dimitrov, came to, I think it was Green Drinks, and she said, I want to start a sustainability commission. She just put it out there. She didn't know even a person. She had been like a caregiver and she had no connections of how to do this. But because she got in our little network and she got the, ordinance from Nancy, and she was able to build a coalition. And like within 2 years, they had a sustainability commission, which I think is just really, really fabulous. So I did put that link to the Gary Federated Neighborhoods white paper that's not really a white paper in there. So I hope you enjoy that. I shared that with the people of Gary, and they thought it was kind of cool that they were doing this thing that, Europe was doing. In India is doing it very well. I was lucky enough to be in sociocracy class this week with a woman, Shwarna Lakshmi Ravi. She was India's first ever youth prime minister of the World Children's Parliaments at the age of 13. So if y'all need some girl power elected, official thing, at 13 years old, this woman, and she's visually impaired as well. Okay. So she did all of this with, sight impaired, living in India, and they have hundreds of thousands of kids throughout schools, throughout India, that she was like the person in charge of all these federated circles of kids that met in their schools, not by age, but by neighborhood. And they made decisions, like really big decisions that impacted their neighborhood. And she has been to the UN, I want to say like 4 times, and delivered testimony. And in April, during Earth Week, we had 4 youth from Indiana participate in a side event at the UN with that World Children's Parliament. So we are doing exciting things, you guys. We are doing exciting things here regionally, and we're branching out across the globe. So whatever despair you may have in your heart from the way things went or did not go, I would just say find your fractal of where you can plug in to do the things, whether it's government or not, but certainly helping to organize government at some point helps. But if government's not your jam, work with your neighbors, and maybe don't work only with, if you're blue, only with the blue, or if you're red, I don't know if you're here, but if you are, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you're red, not only, it's like, let's just plant things. Let's just figure out how to do stuff together. And then when we have these, situations, we know each other as people, I think that's really the thing that I want to get across, is just knowing each other as people again and doing things together that really make a difference. That's my plea, to become active and resilient. So how am I doing, Nancy? I think I have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes until we wrap up. Did anybody want to say anything? We talked about unmuting people. Do you want to do that for a little bit?
That'd be great. I'd love that.
Okay, so let's do that. Em, I think you're the queen of the mute button, maybe.
Yeah. If anyone wants to raise their hand, I can unmute you, or I think now you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to.
I do see Lynn said she wants to know, what is a sociocracy class?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, I hope to be teaching some sociocracy classes. I am this close to becoming a sociocracy consultant, and I am already authorized to teach like an intro course. So I can definitely, if you want to send me a private message with your email, I don't have that as a checkbox yet on the on the opt-in form, because it's just a little too weird or specific.
Wait, and you're Kathy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Kathy Sipple. And then there is that thing, that free resource that I put on there, consent decision making for climate activists. Whether you're a climate activist or not, it would still help you. Okay, so Lynn, I see your name. Can you put your email with that? There, got it. Thank you.
Aren't I quick?
Yeah, you are. And I see Micah said, I have also recently been reading about bioregionalism and municipalism. Yes, municipalism has come up a lot with my sociocracy peeps. Yep. Yes, very true. You got it. Right on. Yeah, any other? Bryant Michael, see you.
We do have a question on Facebook
Great.
from Donovan, our friend at the LaPorte Herald. Any way we can work with any Indigenous rights movement. It is my belief and understanding that Indigenous rights and environmental advocacy groups often work together or are in each other's circles.
I think that is excellent. I'm really glad you brought that up because we have been lucky enough to have at least one, possibly more, because you never know, who is Indigenous. People don't go around saying, I'm Indigenous, but like this woman is Potawatomi, and she said, I really didn't like permaculture very much because basically it's Indigenous wisdom and, white people just co-opted it, put a brand on it. Now they're selling a class, and I don't like that. But she came to our book club and she got to know the people. And I said, well, what other ways do we have to get to this wisdom? If we don't have it through the channels that we're using, then we keep putting Roundup on our lawn. We keep just doing the same dumb things. And so, but again, we had to build a bridge. We had to sit down and talk about, yes, it's both. And if we had an Indigenous teacher who could like write that book and teach us, I would buy that. And I would be the person who would be out there saying, everyone buy this book, but until we have that, I think this is like our best technology and we need to use it because time is of the essence. And so I was just so proud and happy that we worked through that. And we even went on Facebook and said, I used to hate this, now I'm a fan, these people are the real deal. So that was a win. And I'd love to have tough conversations like that and just keep going.
And I want to mention that Billy Warren did do a green drinks presentation. So that was recorded and it has been posted on the Save the Dunes YouTube subscription page. You don't have to pay for it, but that's where everything's organized that we've done for green drinks. So Billy Warren's her name. I'm a good friend of hers also. And she's just a wonderful resource who is always open to join anyone that's genuinely interested on an authentic journey together. So, she's all about relationships and, not just a one-time thing. She really wants people to get to know people. Okay.
And I would say just one last thing about Indigenous wisdom. I would say it's deeply embedded in the roots of sociocracy as well. People have been meeting in circles and making consent decisions for, eons, but we've just gotten away from that. It's just like, do you want this candidate or this candidate? Is popular vote. With consent decision making, you make a proposal and you keep going. It's not consensus, so it's not like somebody gets their way completely, but you keep shaping a proposal until what you have falls within everybody's range of tolerance, and you try it for a time, and then you have a feedback loop. If you don't like it anymore, then you change it, or you can, object to something. So it's just a continuous improvement thing that is rooted also in Indigenous wisdom. So thank you for bringing that up. That was a great question. And then Lynn says, want to know how we people can eliminate PFAS from toilet paper and women's menstrual products. I know that there are things branded out there that do exactly that. Luckily here in our area, we have Professor Julie Peller, who is doing like, what's the group called? It's like anti-plastic or something. But I mean, she has studied microplastics in our water, and she's got students in her chemistry class that have written papers on this. She's just absolutely fascinating. If you Google Dr. Julie Peller, I would say sign up for her email. I get an email from her every single week, and she owns that category here locally.
Yeah,
Is it-
I'm gonna make a note of Dr. Julie Peller because we should have her come
Be great.
and do a green drinks with us. And then I also had the connection of the professor at the Indiana University too. Many people have asked us for that, so I think we should do it the coming year.
And I just want to let you guys, everyone know that Save the Dunes is definitely following closely along with PFAS policy issues in Indiana. And we will be doing a state house session, like talking about what's going to come up in the state house for Indiana in December. So if you're not already on the Save the Dunes e-newsletter and getting updates about our webinars and the other events we're going to be putting on, but we will be talking about the things that we're going to see coming up. PFAS is definitely on that docket. So join us and we'll talk about it and let everyone know how we can get more involved, and when we ask for your voice and things, how you can get involved. So
Okay,
Thank you.
so,
And
oh,
I think that we're at 7:35, so I think we're gonna have to call it a wrap. Everybody knows how to get in contact with everybody now, hopefully.
I'm gonna just
Is
put,
everybody good with that?
I have Lynn's email, I know Valerie, but I'm just gonna put my email in chat too.
okay,
I would be happy to entertain
Great. Okay.
after this.
That's
Um,
Ka Sipple, Sipple @gmail.com. That's for the people that are joining us via Facebook Live. KASIPPLE @gmail.com. Kathy, thank you for sharing that. Kathy, it's always wonderful to have you come here and join us. And we've been friends for so many years now. I've lost count of how many years it is. And Kathy was one of the original co-founders of Valparaiso Green Drinks. And that's initially how we got connected. A friend, Dennis Britton, kept telling me, you have to go, you have to go. We have to do it in Michigan City. And that's how we originally met. And that's been a very long time ago. And here we've evolved into, something that's servicing all of Northwest Indiana. And now with Northwest Indiana Region Resilience, we're able to engage and include so many more people. And I think it's really about inclusion and interconnectedness and wholeness and goodness and kindness and all of that stuff. So thank you all. Join us the first Thursday in January when the executive director of Save the Dunes will be presenting. And that's always a special time. This is a tradition that goes back to year one. We kicked off our first green drinks in Michigan City with a presentation from Save the Dunes. So
It was packed. It was like out the door, out the.
I know that picture came up recently on Facebook, and I just went, "Oh my gosh, there were so many people there." We had people sitting on the floor. It was unbelievable. It was like our what
Pipeline, right? Wasn't that one about the pipeline?
It was about the Enbridge pipeline that was coming through. We had people that had come from Michigan and Chicago to our first green drinks.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And again, thank you to the Michigan City News Dispatch that put us on the front page. And that really got the news out. And now it's, morphed into the LaPorte County Herald Argus. And we have our favorite reporter now, Donovan. And he's very interested in green. So, it's just like, it just keeps weaving into each other.
Love that. That's awesome. Very cool.
Okay, well, it's a wrap. I know I would love to hang around for the rest